I want to invite us to read Mark chapter 2. Mark chapter 2, I'm reading from verse 1 through to 12. This is a story of a paralytic man. Jesus heals a paralyzed man. Mark chapter 2. A few days later, when Jesus again entered Capernaum, the people heard that he had come home. They gathered in such large numbers that there was no room left, not even outside the door. And he preached the word to them. So men came, bringing to him a paralyzed man, carried by 4 of them. Since they could not get him to Jesus because of the crowd, they made an opening in the roof above Jesus by digging through it, and then lowered the mat that the man was lying on. When Jesus saw their faith, he said to the paralyzed man, "Son, your sins are forgiven." Now some teachers of the law were sitting there, thinking to themselves, "Why does this fellow talk like that? He is blaspheming. Who can forgive sin but God alone?" Immediately Jesus knew in his spirit that this was what they were thinking in their hearts, and he said to them, "Why are you thinking these things? Which is easier, to say to this paralyzed man, 'Your sins are forgiven,' or to say, 'Get up, take your mat and walk'? But I want you to know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins." So he said to the man, "I tell you, get up, take your mat and go home." He got up, took his mat, and walked out in full view of them all. This amazed everyone, and they praised God, saying, "We have never seen anything like this." Now, this is a story that I want us to go through. But we want to see in this story and talk about us in a gear group, because these are people who showed a concern, who are caring for one another. So I want to talk today about principles that build a care group. The principles that build a care group. I want to begin by sharing with us a story of a man who was walking one day, and he went near the forest. And while he was near that forest, he saw 2 elephants. And these elephants, they were walking together, and they could not separate. So with that, he was so curious to know why they could not go their own way. And he went near them. He found that these 2 elephants were tied. There was a rope which was tied on their legs. But when he saw this, he was wondering why they could not break that rope, because it was just but a simple rope. And he said to himself, "Why do these elephants, they are very strong, they can do a lot of work, they can bring down trees, but they cannot break just a rope which was tied, the 2 of them." So in the process, he met a trainer who was working who was training the wildlife. And he asked him, "Why are these 2 elephants are not able to break the chain, to break that rope, because it's not something which is too hard for them to break?" And he was told that these 2 elephants, when they were still young, they were tied in those ropes together. So they grew knowing that it was hard for them to separate. After growing to such an extent that they can do everything, they still think in their mind that this thing cannot be broken. And this man was able to learn that in life. This man taught him that in life, the trainer taught him that in life there are people who have a set-up mind, a mentality that we have in our mind, that things cannot change. Quite often, when we speak in our church and encourage us on a need for us to be in a small group, in a care group. There is a perception, there is that mentality that we have, that before even you do anything, you think that something cannot work. Many of us, we have a certain mentality in everything that we do, that we cannot even think of asking God to help us and to explore various things that God has for us in our lives. And these things are making us not to achieve the great destinies that God has given to us as an individual or as a group or as a church. Because there are things that we see and we say these things are impossible for us to be done. We have a set up mind. In my ministry as a pastor in different churches where I've ministered, I find people that sometimes they tell you this is the system, this is the way we do things in our church. And this has been the system all along. That sometimes people say this thing cannot be changed. We grew knowing things should be done in such a way, or in this way and this way. So people tend to believe that there are some things that cannot be changed because we have a set mind. That even as we grow in our Christian faith, we still want to believe some things are not possible. Some of us are believing that we are not possible to be in a small group. It's not possible for us to meet enough fellowship because of various activities that we have, our set mind. I pray that God will help us to understand a need for us being in a small group or in a care group. We're looking at this story of this men who were able to carry this paralytic man to Jesus Christ. And in this story, I want us, we see three principles that will help us, that will build us, maybe as a church, as a care group, or even as an individual, because it is very important for us to understand these things. The first principle that I want to talk about is the principle of compassion. The principle of compassion. Look at these men. They were bringing a man who was paralyzed to Jesus. What was a motivating factor in this man to carry this man to Jesus? It was compassion. Now, compassion is that act of showing kindness. You know, you are coming to a point of seeing as somebody who is suffering, and you do not only see, you want to be part, you are motivated to be part of that suffering. In other words, there is something which is driving you to see that you see that person who is has a problem or in suffering, to change. You want to do something to change the condition of that person who is in need or who is suffering. And this man saw this man, and he realizes that they needed to do something for him. So that principle of compassion was in them. One of the greatest ministries that God has given to us as a church in our Africa Gospel Church are the strategies that we have. We have 5 strategies, which it has been named as 5 E's. And the last one is exercising compassion. That as a church, we are required to exercise compassion. A few weeks ago, we were asking all of us to donate food, and I want to appreciate all of us for what we did, because you gave us maize, you gave us a lot of food, and we were able in the course of this week to deliver them to our mission station in Baringo. And that was a good thing that you did as a church. Compassion. You see, God is calling us to be people who are able to show compassion. There are many people today who cannot be driven by compassion. But when we meet in a fellowship, if I don't have a compassion, I can be motivated, because when we are in a fellowship, we work together. We care for one another. For a care group to stand, the members who are in that group must have compassion. We must be driven by compassion. As an individual, to be successful in what you do, you must be driven by compassion. There's a story of a man. When he was young, his mother died. And while he was growing, he was taking care of his stepmother. In the process of being a child, his stepmother was not taking care of him well, the way she was taking care of the other children. So often he was tortured. He was told to do a lot of heavy duties compared to the other children. So there was one day that there was a drought, and water was to be collected far away from home. So this young man was sent by his stepmother to go and fetch water. And when he came, he found some people on the road who were thirsty, sitting down, and they were requesting him, give us some water to take. So he gave them water. When he reached home, in the container that he was carrying water with, the water was not full. And he could be beaten because his mother will tell him, why? Why did you not fill, the water to the container? When he was trying to explain what he was doing, she was not listening. And she kept on torturing this young man. So one day he thought of himself and said, next time when I go to bring water, even if I get anyone who will ask me to give him water, I won't. So he went. But while he was coming, he also found another old man who was so thirsty. And he asked him, give me some water to drink. Remember, he made a vow because he was fearing to be beaten back at home. But he thought over himself and said, even though I go through various suffering, that my stepmother is torturing me, I cannot stop the heart that I have of helping other people. So he was moved out of compassion. He gave out water to that man, knowing that he would be beaten back at home. But when he reached home, he was beaten. But as he was giving this man water, there was a conversation that was going on. And he told this man about his suffering. And then this man wanted to know where he was living. And he explained to him where he was living. After a while, this man came. Because this boy was going through a lot of torture in his life. He came. And he told him that I'm taking you. I've come here to take this young man because he gave me water one day when I was so thirsty. And my son, God has helped my son. He is outside the country. And I talked to him. And he was able to have a scholarship to this young man. So this Mzee was able to take this man who was being tortured, and he was given a scholarship. So he was free out of his suffering that he had suffered for quite a long time. So when we serve a God and show that heart of compassion, God is able to minister to our needs. A lot of us, we cannot understand how God works. But at times in our hearts, we cannot show that heart of kindness. We cannot be in a position to reach out to other people. I was challenging different people where I've been going to speak. I remember last month I was speaking in Tenwell Hospital, speaking to the staffs. And I was challenging them about having a heart of compassion. That if everybody who is working will show that heart of compassion, everybody, wherever you are, and show that heart of compassion, I guarantee you, you will receive God's blessing in a way that you cannot understand. Because God blesses people who are reaching out, people who are showing concern to those people who are suffering. And it doesn't matter. Everybody has a responsibility. Anybody who is working, you are meeting with people in a different capacity. Anybody, if you are a doctor, you still need to show that kindness, that love, that concern, even for the patient that you are treating. Because you never know whom you are treating. You never know how God can use that person. You know, when you treat that person in a way. Do you know there are people who get healed just by being treated in a lovely way? I used to I remember a long time ago, some people would go to hospital, allow me to use the Hospital. And because the Tenwell Hospital had some white people treating people. Mtu akienda na anaonekana na msungu, anakuja anafurahi na anasema ni kama amepona, hata kama hajapona, anasema niliona na msungu. So alikuwa na believe because ameona na mzungu amepona, na because aliniongelesha vizuri, anakuuliza wapi, akashika vizuri, because of that compassion, that kindness that a person was showing. Anarudi nyumbani anasema nilionekana na mzungu na nimepona. Bwana asifiwe. So how many of us, if we do our service in the right way, that we reach people until they feel that love, that as a doctor you are treating people in such a nice way, how many people can come to Jesus in such a way? And God can bless you if you do such a thing to God. And everybody has a responsibility. Even somebody who started as a watchman. Have you ever gone to a place alafu watchman anakuongelesha vibaya? I went to Naivas about a week ago, and I was carrying a bag. And in my bag there was a laptop. So badala ya kuniongelesha vizuri, nikienda hivi ananifuta hivi. Baka nikakasirika, sasa unapepa nini? So nikaona, how can he talk to me in such a way that he's treating me like a criminal? Because there are some people who doesn't have that art of compassion in any service that you are doing. You do not need to treat people like they are nothing. I mean, that courtesy of talking to somebody, excuse me, can I see what you are carrying? What are you carrying? And then somebody can explain to you. Even if you are serving in a police station. When you reach a police station and you even need a service, you already seen as a suspect. Alafu policeman anakuongelesha vibaya. And maybe you are coming even to assist them, to report them that there is a crime somewhere which has happened. But the moment you are there, somebody is looking at you with a hard face. Baka hata ukiwa na kitu. That is why when you have challenges of insecurity, some people are not even fearing to go and report. Because people doesn't have that heart of serving humanity. I want to challenge us, every one of us here, that we need to show that heart of concern everywhere. Even if you are a boss in a certain office, somebody is coming looking for unemployment, treat that person in a nice way and tell him, excuse me, I'm sorry, we don't have a vacancy in such a place, but next time when there is a vacancy, we will let you know. And that is how God has created us. Because there are some Christians today, when you meet them somewhere outside this church, I mean, you cannot believe that there are people who are fellowshipping in Emmanuel. You can't believe. Because the way we behave, outside that, we behave badly. So, unaenda tu unasumbuliwa na jam, mtu tu anakusumbua kwa barabara. What kind of a words that will come out of your mouth as a Christian who is, hata ukitoka saa hii tu mtu akusumbue pale. Some of us will say words, hata kama mtu akijua you are in Emmanuel, atashangaa na wewe ulienda Emmanuel kweli this morning to worship God. Because of what we speak. I pray that God will help us so that we will see the need of us showing that concern, the principle of compassion. And every care group will stand. A church will stand strongly when we show compassion. The second principle that will help us to be strong as a church, as a care group, or even as an individual, is the principle of persistence. To persist. In other words, you do not give up. Now, many of us, or rather in this story, we are looking at these men. And these men were carrying a man who was paralyzed. And they are reaching to where Jesus was. I don't know the distance, because the Bible does not tell us how far it was. But I believe they persisted carrying a man who was paralyzed. 4 men carrying a man. They were not giving up in any way. They went until they reached where Jesus was. And reaching, the Bible says a large crowd was there. So there was no way they could penetrate and reach where Jesus was. But these men, out of that persistence, they were ready to say that we are not going to give up. Even though we do not see a way out, where we will get this man to where Jesus is. They thought and said, we will persist. We must get this man to Jesus. We must get this man to where Jesus is. We cannot just come until we reach this place and we stop, we give up. They were not ready to give up. I want to challenge us that, you see, when we meet as a care group, when we meet as a church together, God help us to persist in all whatever we need. I'm very encouraged in various care groups that I've met that they have demonstrated this heart of persistence, that they persist. Even though there are some challenges that come, I understand that there are various challenges that come. But we do not need to give up. We do not need to give up. You know, I was reading a story of a man who was a politician in England, or rather in Britain, and his name was William Wilberforce. William Wilberforce in 1800, was it 1700 to 1800. And this man, he was elected to become an MP. I think it was in 1880. 1880 he was elected to become an MP. And in the process, he came across, you see, the slaves who had scars in their bodies. You know, the scars of the whips, the scars of branding, they were being branded. And when he saw these scars, he was so moved. And he thought of how slavery was so bad. And William Wilberforce, in that process, he went and saw a ship that was ferrying the slaves. And he saw how they were stuffed in a certain corner. And he was told how many of them died and was thrown out in the high seas. And when he saw, he was so moved. And he presented some bill in the parliament trying to stop slavery and say, I do not, slavery is against God. Every person is a human before the eyes of God. Whether they are black, they are white, or any color, they are important before God. He spoke in the parliament in Britain for quite a while. But it took him 17 years. Nothing was happening. Every bill he was giving out, it was not seeing the day. But after 18 years, he presented a bill, and his bill went through. There was abolition of slave trade across the world. Because he was so persisting. Even though this bill came through, he still had to struggle because it was said that no more slavery. But those people who were in Britain at that time as slaves, they were not freed. They were not taken as human beings. They were still treated as slaves. And he continued fighting and saying, even these people who are here, they should not stay there as slaves. And he kept on pushing. And in 1833, a law was passed that it was able to release all slaves. And he was happy and said, it has taken me over 50 years. And I have persisted. But he said, I thank God that at this time, the slavery has come to an end. So some of the things that we are doing can take us a longer period of time, but we need to persist. We need to persist. We do not need to give up. Starting a care group is not easy. You can make tea and nobody comes. I've seen some care groups that some leaders call me, Pastor, what do I do? I've made, I told people that they know that we are supposed to meet on Tuesday or on a Wednesday, but nobody is coming. I've made tea, but nobody is coming. Don't give up. And I challenge each one of us individually, don't give up. Whatever you need, don't give up. Persist. These men did not give up. Even if they thought of Sata come and kupamoa the roof of the house, we will do so. Because the thing that we need is that we need to get this man to where Jesus was. And I want to challenge us today that God will come at our own time, at his own time, to meet at the points of our needs. You could be here today, and sometimes you come to a point of giving up in what you need. I want to challenge you, don't give up. Persist, keep on moving, keep on trusting God in whatever you need. You see, the Bible says God will make everything beautiful in his time. And we need to wait on that time that God has made for us. So that whatever you need in your home, whatever we need as a church, whatever we need, that is why we are not stopping, even when we speak and people are not joining their groups, or people are not doing whatever we want to do, we will still preach. We cannot give up. When we speak about salvation and people are still not getting saved, we will still preach. Because God has given us this time, and we know that God will make everything beautiful in His time. So whatever you need, don't give up. You could be in need of a job today. You could be in need of financial breakthrough. You could be in need of healing in your family. You could be in need of God to bless you in anything. Maybe you are praying for somebody to get saved. You have a prayer for salvation in your family. You have a prayer for salvation for your children. I want to challenge you today. Don't give up. Continue praying. Persist. Keep talking to God. And I want to tell you that one day, one time, you will stand and testify and say, indeed, God has done it for me because He is our faithful God. Amen? As I come to an end, let me speak about the last principle very briefly because of time, the principle of teamwork. I don't want to spend a lot of time with this because I think Reverend Joyce was speaking to us last week about teamwork. Teamwork is very important in any work that we do. Look at these men. They were carrying this man to Jesus. If one of them was doing it, I want to tell you, it could have been so hard. Because mtu angechoka to carry that man who was sick. But because they work as a team, they were able to move. When they reached a place where they found that there was no way to go where Jesus was, because they were working in a team, it was so simple for them. I guess maybe even in that process of thinking, how can we get this man to where Jesus is? Perhaps one of them was thinking and say, I will bring, maybe I will go and bring a hammer so that to go to pomoe the roof of the house. Maybe one of them was saying, I will get some ropes so that to funga ropes in this mat, alafu some of them will say, I will go up, nikiwa pale juu, tutashika the ropes while mnamsukuma mtu. And then we lower this person to where Jesus was. Look at that. You see, working as a team. God will help us to be successful in our Christian faith when we work as a team. Some of us, you want to work alone. You want to work alone in what you are doing. You cannot be successful. We encourage you to be in this small group. A lot of these care groups that we have in our church, there are people who have seen God helping them even to get jobs. Because you could be fellowshipping in somebody who can be a blessing to you. But the moment you stay alone, nobody will know you. You leave this church, nobody will know you. You are in a problem, and nobody is there to stand with you. But in a small group, people are there to come as a team. They will come and support you in a way that, will make your burden so light. Our burden can become so light if only that we are with other people who are helping us. And I want to challenge us. Let us value teamwork in every work that we do. As a church, don't be alone. Look at the people whom you can fellowship together with. Find some other Christian. People who can encourage you. People who are there to stand with you. People who are there to pray with you. There are times that you don't have strength to pray, and you need someone else to pray for you. There are times that you need to be encouraged. If you are alone, you will die alone. But if you are with people, they are there to hold you. And as a result, you will become victorious in everything that you go through. So we need to ask God to help us so that we will be in a position to value teamwork. In every work that we do, we need to value teamwork. I pray that God will help us so that we will understand and see that we need to be Christians who are true followers of Jesus Christ, who are part of a care group, who are part of a small group, and our good God will bless us. Let us close our eyes in prayer.